Chapter 4. Pressure builds. The house felt different after they came back, not because anything had physically changed, but because the weight of everything outside had followed them in. It pressed into the space between the walls, into the quiet between words, into every small decision that now carried more consequence than it should have. Daniel stood in the kitchen looking over the supplies they had brought back. Oxygen canisters, masks, tubing, water, batteries, and a small amount of food. It was not enough for long, but it was enough to matter, and right now that was the difference between control and waiting for things to fall apart. Louis leaned against the counter, watching him without speaking at first. He had that look people got when they were trying to process too many things at once, but were still holding it together through habit more than understanding. "You're already thinking about what comes next," Louis said eventually. Daniel nodded, his eyes still on the supplies. "Yes." Louis let out a slow breath, then rubbed the back of his neck. "Figured?" Daniel reached for the notepad and read through what he had written again. The system, the creatures, the lack of power and signal. He added another line, pressing the pen slightly harder than necessary. Multiple creatures observed. Increased speed and aggression. He set the pen down and rested his hand briefly on the counter. "We need information," he said. "Something more than we've seen." Louis shifted his weight. "I was thinking the same. Other people might have seen more than we have, or they've just seen different pieces of the same thing," Daniel replied. "That doesn't mean they understand it." Louis gave a small shrug. "Still better than nothing." "Maybe," Daniel said. "But we don't rely on it." Louis nodded. "No, we assume no one's coming to fix this exactly." The words sat there for a moment, heavier than they should have been. The system appeared again. It didn't creep in at the edge of Daniel's vision this time. It presented itself clearly, as if it had decided subtlety was no longer necessary. System notification. Survival phase active. Initial objectives available. Daniel stilled slightly as he read it. Louis noticed straight away. "You've got something new." Daniel read it fully before answering. Yeah, more text followed, structured in a way that felt deliberate. Objective. Establish stability. Secure shelter. Secure clean water. Secure sustainable resources. Objective personal growth. Assign available attribute points. Improve physical capability. Objective awareness. Observe environmental changes. Identify threats. Daniel let out a slow breath. "It's giving objectives." Louis frowned slightly. "Mine too. Looks like something out of a game, but it doesn't feel like one." "No," Daniel said. "It doesn't." Louis leaned forward slightly. "It's telling us things we already know." "Yes," Daniel replied. "But it's also confirming something." Louis looked at him. "What?" "That this is structured," Daniel said. "This isn't random." Louis's expression shifted, the realization settling in. "So something set it up." Daniel nodded once. "Looks that way." Louis let out a quiet breath. "I don't like that." Daniel didn't respond. There wasn't anything useful to add. The text lingered for a few seconds, then faded. Daniel picked up the notepad and wrote everything down carefully. If the system changed, if it updated, if it removed things, he wanted a record that didn't disappear with it. Louis watched him. "You think it's going to keep giving us things like that?" "Yes." "And you think we should follow it?" Daniel paused before answering. "I think we should understand it before we ignore it. That's not exactly comforting." "No," Daniel said. "It isn't." A noise outside interrupted them. Voices, closer than before. Daniel looked towards the front window, already moving before he consciously decided to. Louis followed, both of them instinctively keeping to the side rather than stepping directly into view. Daniel pulled the curtain back just enough to see. 3 people stood further down the street, their voices raised and their posture tense. 2 men and a woman, all of them on edge in that specific way people got when fear and frustration started mixing together. "It was just a dog," one of the men said, though it sounded more like he was trying to convince himself. "It was not a dog," the woman snapped back. "You didn't see it properly. I saw enough." The third man stood slightly apart, looking between them, clearly unsure whether to step in or step away. Louis leaned slightly closer. That's going to turn into a problem. Daniel didn't answer, because something else had already caught his attention. Movement. Low to the ground. Fast. Across the street. "Lewis," he said quietly. "I see it." The creature moved out from between two parked cars. It was smaller than the one from earlier, but there was something sharper about it. Something more focused. It didn't hesitate or circle. It went straight for them. The impact knocked one of the men sideways before he could react. Panic followed instantly, the group breaking apart in different directions without any coordination. Lewis swore under his breath. "We can't just watch that." Daniel's mind was already moving through the situation. Distance, speed, behavior. The creature was reacting to movement, to panic, to targets that didn't understand what they were facing. "Stay here," Daniel said. Lewis turned towards him. "You're not seriously going out there." "I'm not rushing it," Daniel replied. "I'm pulling it away." Before Lewis could argue further, Daniel stepped outside, grabbed the metal bin near the wall, and slammed it hard against the ground. The sound cut through the street, sharp and deliberate. The creature reacted immediately. It turned and locked onto him. That was what he needed. "Move," Daniel called towards the group. "Get away from it." This time they didn't hesitate. They scattered properly, dragging the injured man with them. The creature shifted its focus fully onto Daniel and lunged. Daniel moved sideways, forcing it to adjust its angle rather than meeting it directly. He brought the bin up again, not to block completely, but to disrupt the path of the attack. The impact traveled through his arms, stronger than expected, the force enough to make it clear this wasn't something he could afford to misjudge. The creature recovered quickly, too quickly. It circled, low, watching him. Testing. Daniel kept his movements controlled, not reacting to every small shift, only to the ones that mattered. When it lunged again, he redirected it again, forcing it offline just enough to avoid a clean hit. It hit the ground, rolled, and came back up almost instantly, faster than before. Daniel adjusted his stance slightly, creating space without turning his back. Then it stopped, just like the first one had. Its head tilted slightly, as if it was listening to something Daniel couldn't hear. A second passed. Then it turned and ran. Daniel stayed still for a moment, watching the direction it went, fixing it in his mind. Only then did he lower the bin. Lewis stepped out towards him. "You all right?" "Yeah," Daniel said. Lewis looked down the street. "That one was quicker. Yes, that's not good, no." Daniel agreed. The group they had helped were already gone, disappearing further down the street without looking back. Lewis watched them for a second. "At least they made it." Daniel nodded once, then turned back towards the house. Inside, the door was shut, locked, and checked again without thought. The kitchen felt smaller now, but clearer. Lewis ran a hand through his hair. "Right. So there's more of them. They're different, and they're getting worse, yes." Lewis looked at him. "So what now?" The system appeared again. Objective updated. Threat level increasing. Recommendation: improve capability. Daniel stared at it, then looked down at his hands, then at the notepad, then at the bag sitting on the counter. 5 points. Still unassigned. Lewis watched him. "You're thinking about it now?" "Yes." "Yeah," Lewis said quietly. "Same." Daniel didn't rush the decision. But for the first time he understood something clearly. Waiting too long might be just as dangerous as acting too quickly. Outside, the world was changing faster with every passing minute. Inside, they were running out of time to stay ahead of it.